Hey everyone, I'm Clayfect, and today we're going to continue on with this tutorial series where I make a Tutootie. If you want to follow along on this tutorial and haven't seen the first video where I made the base, then I would highly suggest you doing that first, before you get right back to me here, where we make Teri the terrified Tutootie. Now that was quite a mouthful to say, since English isn't my first language, so without further ado, let's just get started, guys. So let's start up with the face where we are gently smoothing the cheeks in. Now for this character we want it to look completely terrified, which is why we are not going to make the cheeks very defined and we're going to hang them very low. When the cheeks are done, it is time to build up the mouth and the nose. Now we are going for a sort of fish-like look here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a half ball and press it into little Teri's face, before we smooth it in, like so. And now we're ready to start working on the mouth. I take a knife and slowly cut it into Teri's face before we take a ball stylist to shape out the inside of the mouth. Now we want this mouth to look like that Teri is screaming in fear, so we are pressing the corners down and making it sort of large for him. Now making a mouth like that can be pretty difficult and challenging, but just keep going and try again and again until you are satisfied with it. This actually is my fourth try before I am happy with the mouth and can start building up the rest of the face, giving him a chin and a little tongue. The tongue is made just by shaping a little half moon and then slide it into the mouth before pressing it down. And then all I have to do is poke some holes for some nostrils. Now to make the eye as big and scared as possible, we want the eyes to be as open as we can, which is why we are taking a very thin small snake of clay and place it only at the top and at the bottom of the eye, leaving the sides completely open. We smoothed it in using our trusted round rubber shaper tool. Now if you want to get started on polymer clay, then there's an affiliate link with everything you need down in the description below. I will get a small percentage from that, guys, but it's simply to buy more clay. Now with our tiny eyelids smoothed in, we are taking the dentist tool and scraping all around the inner edge of the eye. And we're doing that for two reasons. One, to make the eyes equal in size, and two, to make sure that the eyes are as big as possible. To really nail this terrified expression, we are placing a pretty thin snake of clay sort of high up before we smooth it in, making them slightly tilted as we smooth to really nail this worried expression. To switch gears for a bit, we are moving on to the body and the scales. Here you just need a round metal cylinder like I'm holding, or a straw, and just poke the scales out before you're going to place them all around the body in a somewhat decent line, like you see me doing here. It's a pretty easy texture, if not a time consuming one. But with the scales as we want them, all we have to do now is take a ball stylus that's a little bit smaller than the scales and then press it in to make this indent and give it more texture and dimension. And with the scales as you want them, all you have to do is move it a bit up and then do exactly the same and just keep going like that. When the bottom of his body is made, we can go ahead and make the tail, where we take a long snake of clay that is sort of cone shape before we press some wire into it. After that we insert the wire into the buttocks, like so. And then it's all about shaping the tail. With the tail safe and secure, we can move on to his little feet. Here I take a ball of clay and cut it into size before I shape the feet. When we have some feet that we like, all we have to do is cut some triangles into him, like you see me doing here. Now we want rabbit feet, I think it's called. Feet with skin between his toes. Yeah, that's what we're going for here. We're doing that to sell this fantasy face look and not make it look like a dragon. Now we need to make sure that's enough space between the toes in order to make the extra skin, so to speak. So when I pull out and round the toes, as you see me doing here to give them shape, I also make sure that there's a lot of space between them. Now with the feet as we want them, all we have to do is take a very thin sheet of Super Sculpting and press it on top of the foot, so it covers the toes, before we take our round rubber shaper tool and press it in, sort of pressing the skin onto the foot. When that is done and we have a good scooper foot, so to speak, all we have to do is to cut the extra clay off and we have a foot. Now all we have to do is press it to the bottom of the sculpture and smooth it in, and we're pretty much done with the feet. Now let's put some thin flippity-floppers on our tail. First we're going to take a pretty thick piece of clay and cut out the tail shape that we want, like you see me doing here. When we have the shape as we want it, all we have to do is pop it out and then cut in between it to make these triangles that will go perfectly on each side of the tail. And when we have placed them, all we have to do is smooth them in, and we're pretty much done with the tail. All we need to do now is some texture, using the same principle as we did before. Now this is just only one way to make a Tutoosie. There are many ways to make these little guys. And if you feel the creative urge to make one, then please leave a hashtag, say Tutootsies, so I can get a look at it. I would love seeing it. I will actually encourage everyone to try it. It's good training. Now to give him a little more flair, I also decided on a head fin for him. So that is what you see me doing here, and it's simply taking a snake of clay, pressing it onto the head, and then take the spoon saber tool and fit it on. After that, I cut some slices into the clay before I take my slightly curved rubber shaper tool and shape the top fin into the shape that I want. And just like that, he doesn't look like a dragon, he looks like a weird fish monster. And with this, Teri is almost ready for his first bake. All he has to do is getting some scales and blending those scales into the face, making the face more open. And with him all scaled up, he's ready for his first bake. Now on the package it says to bake him for 15 minutes on 130 degrees Celsius. That is 275, I believe, in Fahrenheit. But I prefer to bake him on 120 degrees Celsius. That is 248, I believe, in Fahrenheit. And I do that for 25 minutes. Though before this little terrified fish is quite ready, I'm brushing him with some clay softener to smooth out any fingerprints. You can also use simply baby oil. Sadly, even with my not so expert expertise, the tail ended up breaking after baking. I'm going to show you later on how to fix that. But first, we're going to make some flippity-floppers for little Teri. Now we want Teri to clutch his cheeks in fear while he's screaming, really to emphasize this emotion. But first thing we gotta do is cut some flippity-floppers out of a sheet of clay that we are going to place on his wire arms as a sort of clay sandwich and press them together. And with the flippity-flop clay sandwich sort of done, all we have to do is cut the arms into shape before we start shaping them out and smoothing them into the body. Now the reason I am doing the arms before I fix the tail is actually so I don't accidentally hit the tail and have to do the same process all over again. But back to the flippity-flop arms. When I'm done shaping them, I give them some texture on the inside using my dentist tool and the pointy rubber shaper thing before I bend the arms into place. When the flippity-floppers is as I want them, all I have to do is give the same texture on the outside of the flippity-flopper, and we are finally on to fixing the tail. Now, first step in fixing the tail, I am making some clay goop, which is 50% baking bond oven clay adhesive and 50% clay that I knead into a little ball before I put it onto the tail end and simply pressing it in, making a very sticky and sturdy glue for the sculpture, you can say. With the tail in place yet again, all I have to do is smooth the goop out and start texturing that again using my ball stylist. And that is pretty much it for an easy fix on how to fix an oven crack. Now, feeling like Teri was too much fish and too less fantasy, I decided on making him some squid-like ears. And I do that by pressing a snake of clay and rolling it onto a ball stylist before I sort of cut off the ear from the ball stylist, as you see me doing here. And that is pretty much how we make the squid ears. All we have to do now is put on some baking bond oven clay adhesive, simply to secure it since Teri already has been baked, and then place the ear. And that is pretty much it. Now little terrified Teri is ready for his last bake. All he needs to do is get some more clay softener or baby oil if you have that. And he's ready for the oven. Now, if you want to learn how to paint little Teri, you have to wait for the last video where Paintfect is going to get a crack at him, but that doesn't mean we are not going to cheat a bit. And there he is. Little Teri the Terrified. Isn't he just very, very much screaming? Oh, I love him. If you like him too, then consider like, comment and subscribe. That would really mean a lot to me and help this channel out a great deal. And while you're at it, hit that notification button so you're going to see all the Tutootsies when they come out. Please do tell me in the comments which one of these Tutsie monsters is your favorite. Mine is definitely the angry little dinosaur chicken. Or maybe Teri, I love his expression. But at last guys, it is time for me to sign off for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time, but if you can wait until next time, why not click on the squares you like? Then you're going to see another cute little Tutootsie get made. But until then, bye!